G'day chaps, 'tis I, Clumpuncher139. For everything the Arkham series did right, and trust me, it did a lot right, there's one thing we can all agree that it did wrong. Okay, aside from the entirety of Suicide Squad. Because seriously, what the fuck happened to Harley? Harley Quinn is one of the most famous villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery. She has been since her inception in the animated series over 30 years ago, and continues to be to this day. She is literally everywhere, appearing in nearly as many pieces of media as Batman himself, including the Arkham series. She first appeared in Arkham Asylum, and is one of only a small handful of characters to make an appearance in every single game thereafter. And with every single iteration of this beloved character, she became more and more bastardized until we ended up with what we in the industry call a character assassination. Arkham's Harley Quinn is one of the single worst cases of character development I've ever seen across a series. In fact, I hold no shame in calling her the single worst character in the Arkham series. But she didn't start out that way. Let's travel all the way back to 2009 and see where this train wreck departed its station. As I mentioned, Harley first appeared in 2009's Arkham Asylum, and I don't think I'll be blowing any minds when I say that this is by far her best appearance in the saga. No, I'm not just talking about the sexy nurse outfit. On top of having the single best voice performance provided by the late Arlene Sorkin, rest in peace.
I know, you're shot! Come and get me, Bats! I double dare ya!
Arkham Asylum Harley is simply the most like her original self. This is a Harley that understood the assignment and did her absolute best. Let's just run through a small list of her accomplishments throughout this game to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. She was able to break out of her cell and gain access to the security mainframe, meaning when Joker got loose, she was the one who ensured he was able to escape and take control of the madhouse. Without Harley, Joker's plan would have been incapable of going forward. After making sure her puddin' was in control, she kidnaps the warden and sends a video to Batman gloating about it. As Batman tries tracking down Joker and Officer Balls, Harley drops a friggin' elevator on his head to slow him down. And if Batman didn't have the grapple gun, yeah, he'd probably be stuck down there at the bottom of that shaft. And even though he does, it still slows him down enough for Harley to get out of the building with Gordon and kill Bowles without issue. And at his fastest, it still takes Batman nearly 2 minutes to get up the elevator shaft, which is more than enough time to run through the rest of the asylum and kill a bunch of guards while he's distracted. And after escaping intensive treatment, she sticks her goons on the Batmobile just for the fun of it while she keeps Gordon locked up in the medical center to keep Batman further distracted. And while she's in the medical center, she has a pretty damn smart plan for ensuring Bats won't get the old man back, by threatening to kill him if even one of her goons in the rooms below sees Batman. In the end, it doesn't work out because Batman is simply built different, but the fact that she laid out a pretty smart plan for keeping Gordon is more than commendable. And even though Batman is able to get the better of her temporarily, she knows to make her escape during the chaos caused by Bane, so she can keep causing more trouble. She disappears for a little while after that, only coming back into the picture after Dr. Young is killed, but when she does, she's still got Sharpie.
Sharpie used a bad word, Mama spank!
This acts as yet another distraction for Batman to keep him away from Joker, and this is probably her best one yet. She keeps Bats distracted for a good long while, running around the whole penitentiary and causing all kinds of chaos. The biggest thing among them being letting Ivy out of her cell. And the thing is that she wasn't on Joker's list, meaning she had no impact on Joker's plan for the night. But this shows that Harley is willing to go against Joker to a certain extent. She has a friendship with Ivy, so even though Mr. J doesn't have a need for her this evening, she throws Ivy a bone and springs her. And the best part is that even though it wasn't initially part of Joker's plan, it ends up working in his favor, since this allows him to spike Ivy with Titan and create the mutant killer plants all over the island. Without Harley acting on her own, Joker's plan would have had one less cog in the works and Batman would have stopped him a lot easier. But since she did, his plan becomes a lot more deadly. And this is true for the rest of the penitentiary as well. She does a lot of stalling to keep Batman at bay, with a lot of effectiveness. Most importantly though, she uses her knowledge of the asylum to her advantage. Not only going to various places that are difficult for Batman to reach, but using the security measures to slow him down a lot more. She activates the electrified doors and floors to keep Batman at bay, or just flat out hurt him in certain areas. The final combat section where she uses the floors against Batman is great because it shows that she really wants to impress Joker with stopping Batman, and shows that she's capable of doing it with her knowledge of the asylum's systems. She even throws out one last Hail Mary against Batman, trying to fight him head on after all her guys are down. It doesn't work, obviously, but we give her an A for effort. After that, she's completely out of the picture for the rest of the game. But the simple fact of the matter is that she made an impact in the screen time that she had. She has a few goofs here and there, like unintentionally revealing that the secret lab was in the gardens, but on top of Batman already knowing of the lab's existence from Dr. Young,
there's a lab hidden in the gardens.
This is perfectly in line with her character. She has a bit of a big mouth at times, and it's not like she gave specifics or anything, she just said, in the gardens.
You won't find Mr. J. He's in the secret lab in the gardens and... oh crap!
Yep, I know.
She really did her best, and Joker should have given her a lot more than a B+. So, yeah, Harley in Arkham Asylum was kind of a badass. She constantly slowed Batman down and made his life a living hell while Joker's plans went through. But at the same time, she wasn't solely driven by the Joker. She had her own agency, made her own decisions, and above all else, was smart, contrary to Batman's beliefs. It's very clear that Paul Dini was writing this story because of how much respect Harley gets in it. She's treated like an actual freaking character, rather than a plot device, like we'll be seeing in some of these later entries. When Batman finally took her down in the penitentiary, it felt like a massive obstacle was overcome, especially with how she used the penitentiary to her advantage for that whole section. She sicked obstacle after obstacle on Batman, so finally reaching that room and taking her down felt incredibly satisfying, like you're finally starting to gain some momentum on Joker and take back the asylum. Because it genuinely does slow Joker down when Harley is out of the picture. It feels like a massive problem of the night has finally been dealt with, and some real work can finally start getting done. Harley was a threat in Arkham Asylum, which is not really something that can be said for the rest of these games.
Oh, and now you have only 30 seconds to get out. Bye-bye!
When we get to Arkham City, Harley kinda just disappears. She only has about 5 minutes of screen time in the base game, and makes very little impact in that limited time. She's there in a church, where she immediately gets thrown to the floor in the exact same manner of her defeat in Arkham Asylum, and then she runs away. She's there in the steel mill, but is more of a passive observer than anything else. At most, she sicks Mr. Hammer on Batman while she and Joker set up the fake Joker gag, but that's about it, and was pretty clearly Joker's plan anyway. She literally just vibes in the background of Joker's "Plenty Wrong With Me" monologue, then does absolutely nothing until Batman's fight with Freeze, where, hey, she actually did something, she stole the cure. And then she gets tied up by Talia in the assembly line and not so casually reveals secrets to Batman, in a way much more blatantly than the little slip-ups in Asylum. There, the information just kinda slipped out.
Well, go on then, I don't care. I'm not telling you nothing. I'm not even gonna tell you about the crap Joker took from Freeze and locked up in the boiler room.
Here, it feels like the devs were trying to scream in our faces, "Hey, there's a secret in this area and you should go check it out, never mind that no human being would ever speak like this." It's frankly really stupid. Then she's just completely gone again until Joker's dead and she starts crying. And yep, that's it. Not necessarily a bad run, but certainly a lacking run. Compared to everything she did in Asylum, it's weird seeing her be so passive throughout the entire game. There's nothing inherently bad with this interpretation aside from that info dump, but it does start to set a bad precedent for what we'll be seeing going forward. But before we can talk about that, we have to talk about Harley's other good appearance, Harley Quinn's Revenge, where, as the title implies, Harley Quinn takes revenge. This DLC story is a much more prominent role for Harley than the main game, and gives a bit of her status from Asylum back. She's taken control of Joker's crew in his death, and is creating a massive problem for the GCPD by staying in Arkham City and taking hostages. Chief among them being Batman himself after he tries to break in and get them all out. The simple fact that she's able to hold Batman himself hostage, forcing Robin to come in and save him, is a massive power move and boost to the character. She also sets up a ridiculous number of defenses in the fort that no regular human should be able to get through, which just shows that she still has quite a few gears moving up there. While her motivation is solely revenge for the death of Joker, it still feels like she has some agency to her. It doesn't currently feel like she's lost all other aspects of her character. She's clearly hopelessly obsessed with Joker at this point, which we could argue wasn't the case in Asylum, but you can tell she's still got a bit of gray matter up there. As she says herself, she's in mourning, so she is gonna be a bit crazier than before. Ultimately, she's still in control of her own actions. Harley Quinn is the one who wanted to do all this, and thus was the one to do all of this. She understandably made her crew fear her.
No, but what choice do we have? Harley's gone crazy since Jane.
She was crazy before.
Yeah, well, now she's crazier. She just wants revenge.
At least she's got the bat. Once he's dead, maybe she'll calm down.
And to some extent, respect her with all the feats she accomplished. They know she's crazy, much like her ex-boyfriend, but don't think she's just some dumb broad who took over just because she was banging the previous guy in charge. She earned her place as one of the top dogs in Gotham, and only cemented the fact that she deserved to be there in Harley Quinn's revenge. And then we come to Arkham Knight, aka the game that started Harley's downward spiral into Flanderization. The biggest problem I have to immediately point out with Arkham Knight Harley is just how goddamn annoying she is.
No can do, Blubberpot. Quiet ain't in my vocabulary.
I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I swear that Tara Strong puts on a different voice every time she plays Harley. Because every single time she's played this character, there's been something different about her voice.
What do you think, Batbrain? Like it?
Welcome to Blackgate. We're gonna do a quick psychiatric evaluation.
Still using shadows to scare the crap out of us criminals, huh?
And this game got the worst of it by a landslide.
Get that chopper down here now! I want more men on the roof and sentry guns covering the entrance!
She's got constant voice cracks, is always yelling even the simplest of lines, and just never shuts the hell up.
Doc Harley prescribed sleepy time!
If someone said Harley was an annoying character and this was their only exposure to her, I would completely understand.
I'm Batman! Get it? Batman!
Arkham Knight Harley is one of the most annoying characters in any Batman media. And that's only talking about when she's speaking. When it comes down to her actions, she went from a moderately obsessed character with enough agency to make her own decisions and above average intelligence, to one whose entire life revolves around her dead ex who makes a grand total of 0 decisions without clownly input and at least a -3 in her intelligence stat. Harley is just so friggin' stupid in Arkham Knight, it's genuinely laughable. This right here is the Quinn who was never very bright that Batman was talking about. Let's start with the biggest problem Harley has. She does nothing of her own volition. Every single action she takes in this game is because someone else told her to. She only breaks into Bloodhaven PD to bust out Ivy because Scarecrow told her to. She only breaks into the movie studios because Henry told her to. And she only does either of those actions because they might help in killing Batman or reuniting with a pseudo-Joker. There is absolutely nothing about this that Harley cares to do herself. The movie studio's attack wasn't her plan. It was entirely Henry's. And she didn't even want to go through with it if it meant bashing Henry with her baseball bat because she didn't want to hurt him.
You remember the plan, don't you?
Yeah, I don't really want to hit you over the head, though. It's gonna hurt!
You're telling me that Harley has reservations about going through with a plan to kill Batman? I ain't buying it. A few months ago, she was ready to kill everyone in this warehouse, including herself, if it meant Batman went down with her. Now she doesn't want to hit an old guy with a bat? What's your deal, Harleen? And on top of that, she doesn't even do anything when she's actually in the studio. She has this giant machine gun with a grenade launcher duct taped to it, and never fires a single bullet. She just sits back and watches Batman and Robin run around and collect the Joker infected, not doing anything to stop them except sticking goons on them. Robin runs back to the holding cells multiple times without Batman to back him up. And Harley is literally right here in a room that Robin needs to pass to get back there, and she does nothing to stop him? She had Robin fighting like 20 guys before Batman arrived, and she never thought to follow in Joker's footsteps and try torturing and killing the Bird Boy? Clearly, Henry's plan wasn't for the studios to be overrun like they were, because he just wanted to kill the other infected and to purify the gene pool. So all this chaos was Harley's doing. And it wasn't even well thought out chaos that accomplished a goal. But in the end, it is still technically Harley Quinn. You can tell that this is the same character you fought through the other games, because it still inherently feels like Harley Quinn. Even though she has no agency and is annoying as shit, you can tell there's still a glimpse of what used to be underneath. There are small amounts where it at least feels like she might be back to her old self, though these moments are very few and far between. Like I said, Flanderization. They've taken the worst aspects of Harley and amplified them to an absurd degree, to where they're now the only aspects of her character. It's still the same character, just one who is a shadow of her former self. And yet, when we get to Suicide Squad, rather than a double down on the character that they already have, we get a complete 180 into who the hell are you and what have you done to Dr. Quinzel? Because simply put, Suicide Squad Harley and Arkham Harley are not the same person. We went from a crazy bitch who was obsessed with this clown even after he was dead, to a still crazy bitch who has suddenly moved on from this clown and is now pretending she has attained girl boss status despite being in the clink for 5 years.
Just picture it. Harley Quinn kills the Justice League.
Oh, Sidekick's got something to prove now that the boyfriend's dead.
Sidekick? Oh, honey. I'm a frickin' superstar.
No. It's clear that they're just trying to emulate Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, all the way down to the accent, not add on to the character that they already created.
You went out like you lived, doll. Looking sharp. And never listening to us.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
And this Harley does nothing of significance throughout the game. She's somehow even more annoying than Arkham Knight.
But you saying I can't really makes me want to, you know?
Harley, no!
Worth it.
She's pretty much the worst playable character in the game despite having familiar mechanics to Arkham players, and worst of all, even aside from that grave sin that nobody is ever going to let her live down, we have a massive deviation from the established character that just isn't believable. You're telling me that after nearly 10 years of obsessing over this maniac, 10 years of crime, abuse, and everything in between, that she suddenly just moved on with absolutely no repercussions whatsoever? No psychological damage that wasn't already there? No fleeting moments of sorrow as she suddenly remembers her puddin'? No PTSD from years of fighting Batman? No? She just moved on and is simultaneously crazier yet more sane, and is perfectly fine working with a group of random freaks on a suicide mission when really she shouldn't even have a will to live anymore without Joker? Yes, I know 5 years has passed between Knight and this game, but you're telling me that the craziest bitch east side of the Mississippi went from this?
No! Not again!
To to this?
Floyd's a deadbeat dad. Sharky's a freak who'll never be a real boy, and what was it? Oh yeah, I never was too bright.
I don't buy it. I especially don't buy her moving on from Joker like this, basically treating her time with him like nothing more than a bad one-night stand, rather than the hellscape it no doubt was.
Hell no. Been there, done that, got the scars, did some healing. I'm not into that type anymore.
Maladaptive narcissists?
Comedians.
If they were gonna have her move on from Jay, which frankly they absolutely should have, they should have had her be believably damaged by all the shit he put her through. After 10 years of suffering, nobody is suddenly gonna become a girl boss. You have to earn that shit, and Harley has done absolutely nothing worthy of attaining that status.
Tell us how to take you down, bats. Never heard my guy Bruce talk this much in my life.
Especially when you look at all of her ass-backwards logic during her speech to Batman. Ironically, putting that psychiatry degree to work for a grand total of 30 seconds before her own points collapse in on themselves. See, Bruce did cause a lot of long-term psychological damage to the criminals of Gotham by dressing up as a bat and casually terrorizing them. Some of these criminals deserved chances to turn their lives around and reform, but being stalked day and night by this giant bat creature will really fuck up any chances of that might have existed. Harvey Dent, Edward Nygma, Waylon Jones, Victor Fries are all just tortured souls who needed psychological help for their conditions. But this version of Batman would rather beat him up and lock him up than go about that route, so they were never able to get the help they so desperately needed. That is a really good point about the damage Batman does to Gotham in addition to the good he does. But then you remember just who is saying all of this. The sidekick to one of the single most diabolical and irredeemable characters in fiction, who commits actions just as bad, if not sometimes worse than him, on a near daily basis. Just based on a few interactions we've gotten with Joker in this series and some bios, we can piece together just a small number of their crimes, including but not limited to murdering a sick child, then giving her father a laughing gas pill to end his own life in the most painful way possible. Assisting in the torture and eventual brainwashing of Jason Todd over the course of 1.5 years.
Why won't you just kill me?
Trading out holy water for hydrofluoric acid at a baptism.
I owe Gotham Church an apology for that incident with the hydrochloric holy water. That was one hell of a baptism.
Attempted omnicide through the use of a homemade nuclear warhead.
Listen to me. Harley, the ball.
Cannibalism and forcing others into cannibalism. Desecration of multiple corpses, of kidnapped doctors no less.
We both know I have sent you 3 more doctors. Did you? Yes. One was left dismembered outside the elevator to my office. The other 2 have not been seen since they were sent to you.
Littering!
My only regret is I didn't do more.
And just about everything else she's done by helping Joker escape Arkham however many times he's done it. If there were ever an irredeemable character, this is it right here. And she has the gall to stand up to Batman and tell him that he has been causing problems in Gotham? Can we get a round of applause for the dumbest fucking character ever? Get the hell off your high horse, Quinn. You might be getting time off your sentence by joining this squad, but you're not gonna be forgiven in the public eye anytime soon.
One of the world's finest heroes, snuffed out by this.
And you're next, asshole.
Harley would have been one of those aforementioned tortured souls if this was her animated series counterpart, which clearly showed remorse after learning about some of the things she helped Joker do. But this is Arkham Harley. She never gets such a moment of reflection, and in most cases is gleeful about the crimes she commits. It's also genuinely hard to feel bad for her because we never get to see the manipulation that Joker pulls on her. I've been avoiding talking about Arkham Origins and Shadow for this video since that was Dr. Quinzel not yet turned into Harley Quinn. But it's also because they set a really bad precedent for Harley as a whole with their interpretation of Mad Love. Going off the original Mad Love story, Harley was slowly and methodically manipulated by Joker to become the sidekick she is today. It wasn't just a quick story that made her suddenly change tunes and realize society was to blame. Joker took his time, well over 3 months, convincing his doctor that he wasn't entirely to blame for his condition and that his way of thinking was clearly the right way to approach life. While she no doubt felt sympathy for him all the way in the beginning, she wasn't stupid enough to literally remove his restraints and let the maniac run loose in the facility. So you're telling me that this version of Harley was smart enough to make herself head of psychological evaluations at Blackgate, but isn't smart enough to know not to keep the clearly mentally unstable inmate locked up for after a single story time? For context, Harley manipulated Warden Joseph into letting her be the one to perform psych evals on all incoming prisoners, meaning she's gotten the job through somewhat questionable means and is already pretty morally ambiguous.
Why would you want to spend any more time with these freaks than you have to?
The criminal mind is a fascinating subject for a research paper or a book.
There's no skin off my back. Knock yourself out.
But you know what? Whatever. We can ignore that. Gotta take whatever leg up you can get to get a job in this world. So that leads to her being the one to evaluate Joker on his first visit to Blackgate, where it's suddenly shown that either she is already morally bankrupt and Joker's talks just let that dormant beast come out to play, or that she's nowhere near qualified for the job and she's manipulated by a guy who isn't even trying to manipulate her. In Mad Love, Joker is actively trying to sway Harley to his side. Meanwhile, in Arkham Origins, he's just yapping his head off and Harley misinterprets everything he says as being about her like a freaking idiot. He wasn't even trying to do anything funny, but eventually saw that Harley was falling for him and took advantage of the situation. And since we know for a fact that Harley is at least a little smart by her appearances in Asylum, City's Revenge, and Shadow, it just has to be the former. Now, to be a little bit fair, she was somewhat redeemed in Arkham Shadow, where she actually does her job and still feels qualified for it.
Whatever's causing you pain, I want to help. And I think you could help the others to see it too.
It feels like she genuinely cares for her patients and wants to make a difference for the mentally sick at Blackgate. And we even get evidence of this from Alfred, who did a bit of digging on her behind the scenes. Recidivism, which is the tendency for a convicted criminal to reoffend, in her patients is below average, meaning the people that she treats are less likely to return to their life of crime than they would with a majority of other doctors. She's doing her job and doing it well in this game.
Woody, let Arnold speak first.
But at the same time, is still falling for the Joker.
If you're too uptight to give the girl a chance, well, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Which we see as she is able to break him out of his solitary cell through official doctor means. Which implies that she is right around the corner to becoming Harley Quinn. Now, to be even more fair, this breakout implies that Mad Love took place behind the scenes of this game, and that it wasn't that session in Origins that completely turned her. This doesn't explain why she let him go in Origins, but does explain that it wasn't actually Mad Love going on there. It also, by the way, doesn't redeem her character in the slightest for me, just shows how she could have gone from the somewhat bubbly airhead in Origins to the cunning master strategist in Asylum a bit clearer. Harley Quinn is just such a weird case, man. She started off as one of the headliners in Arkham Asylum and really staked her claim as one of the greats in it. She was a badass who was clearly worthy of being at Joker's side for all these years. But as the games progressed, she just became more and more one note. until they realize that there's a different Harley Quinn making all the money right now that we should turn our girl into, completely forgetting all the lore they've established up until this point for the sake of having a girl boss.
You have a tattoo? You have more than one? Girl, you hate needles!
Hope it's not for an ex.
We just need to go back and see the Harley we've missed with more prequel titles like Arkham Shadow. That game understood what made Harley great in the early games, and especially in the animated series. So, I'd love to see more of her if it means we get that early era of Harley, rather than this.
Took me years in Arkham to get any sense out of that jabbering kookmeister scarecrow, but I earned my degree in neurochemistry. Summa cum laude. See, you might be immune to your fear toxin, but you ain't immune to mine.
Impossible.
Welcome to your worst nightmare, Bats. Weapons free, boys. He's standing right there.
Camouflage, I'm begging you, do not fall into the same pitfall that Rocksteady did. But we'll just have to wait and see. For now, I am not holding out hope for Harley to get any better in the rest of the saga, or wherever it may go from here. So with that said, please do all the YouTube stuff, because I think my ears are bleeding after listening to all this Harley screeching. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.